I'm good. I'm good. Does this look okay? That it's kind of bright in here, but
No, it looks good. We can see you well on our end. So
is the mic okay? Because I'm using my headphones. I haven't figured out how to hook up a mic yet.
yeah, we can hear you clear. Can you hear him, Nick?
Yep.
Cool.
I was just
Awesome.
looking up what episode this is. It's our 27th episode.
Awesome.
Heck yeah. Well, we'll just go ahead and get started. Joey, thank you for cutting time out of your day to join Ruction Nation and being a guest out here for us.
Yeah, of course. Happy to be here.
So I know you kind of have two lives in the industry. You got your career, and you've got your kind of side hustle with the YouTube channel, which is hilarious. Can you
Yeah.
walk us through what your day to day is in your full time career?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm a general contractor, project manager. So I work for a GC. Specifically, our niche is public procurement. Lowest qualified bidder. That's our market. Outside of Washington, D.C. So on average, I don't know about the dollar amount, but I'm probably managing somewhere like in the 20 to 40 million a year, depending on, some years or more, depending on where you are in a project. And the company I work for, we're very like small market, 5, 6, 7 counties in this general area. But yeah, my day to day is, you know, interesting. I mean, it really depends, and that's kind of the beauty of that pseudo office project manager role is at a smaller firm, you're not working for DPR, or Turner, or WT, or Skanska. Like you might be a PM who's not locked in the office, and I am not locked in the office. So it's Tuesday afternoon. I've spent both days so far in the field all day. Tomorrow will be a full, standard work day in the office, but um, specifically, I'll go through my like today, 7 a.m. meet on the job site, had a meeting at 8 to go through some BIM coordination. That was about an hour. Rolled that right into our first we're really starting footings on a school right now. Rolled that right into essentially about an hour long subcontractor meeting to go through what the next 2 to 3 weeks look like, who needs to be where and when. Finished that. Had to go walk in the job site. We'd done some demo over the weekend to open this thing up. Looked at some coordination issues, identified problems that need to be solved, did some layout for plumbers and electricians so we can saw cut some slabs. Immediately went back out, coordinated some footings and some rebar. We had some busts, got it sorted, picked up lunch in the middle of the eating. Hey, we've got a problem. Go back, double check, concrete truck sitting there, full panic, fix it, pour concrete, day's good. That was my day today. I hope it answered your question all right.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds very familiar. Both Cody and I are superintendents for a multifamily GC. So yeah, a lot of the same on our end. What was your path to get to where you're at today, and how long have you been doing this?
Yeah, I want to ask you guys about the multifamily. Don't let me forget because I'm curious how multifamily is this weird niche. Are you guys doing like first floor concrete and then above that is stick framed?
It's exactly what we're doing on the current project we're on. It's a level 2 podium and then 4 stories of stick framed.
It's so interesting because you guys are in this weird, some people would say it's not commercial, but it's definitely commercial. Some people say it's residential, but it's not really residential because you've
Mhm.
got real concrete and real steel that's going in. And a lot of those are like parking garages on the first floor, or they can just be like tenant fit out restaurants and stuff like that. And then you guys might get the contract to do some of those first floor individual tenant built. I mean, I don't know. They seem complicated. I've never built one, but
They're
I can imagine they get weird fast.
they're fun. I don't know how familiar you are with our what we've brought on the show or what we've talked about, but Nick has worked in the multifamily industry his whole career, and I came to multifamily about 3 years ago. I came from doing churches, schools, and kind of the same niche that you're in at the moment. So multifamily is a different beast. It's a different animal.
Yeah, all the different niches, they all have their pros and cons, and they all have their individual challenges. But I've always thought that the multifamily, like what you guys are talking about, is interesting, especially with the amount of, I'm sure the coordination to get out of that first floor can be a real bear. I bet that can be a real pain, especially when I'm seeing these massive concrete stem walls going up, and I'm like, I know that there's some bars in that need to be right. So I've always thought that was interesting. To answer your question of how I got here, so I went to Old Dominion University in Norfolk, Virginia. I was studying to get my mechanical engineering degree with a motorsports engineering minor,
Oh, wow.
and I was going to go to I was going to transfer, go get my master's in motorsports engineering and join an OE or try to get onto a race team and do race car stuff. Which is no correlation to what's directly behind my head. It's not my
Yeah, I was
poster,
gonna say,
but
I see the
it is
photo.
there. Um, Anyway, so I had a friend, a close friend. He worked for WT for a decade, and now he works for Power Design in Tampa, Florida. Like, the big Power Design, a huge company. And he had an internship. He's like, dude, you should try this. I was like, I'm not doing. I was like, whatever. I could use an internship. So I go out there and I started working, and I did it for a summer, sweeping and picking up trash and just doing dump truck inspections for the Navy. And I was like, this is fun. Like, everybody's cool. It's entertaining. I'm gonna keep doing this during the school year. So then I would work part time during the school year, and then the gentleman who's the superintendent passed away one morning, not on the job site, and he was hilarious. He was a great guy. He was getting older, had some health problems, just didn't wake up one morning, and that's the sad part of the story. But essentially, they were like, "Hey, you want to be the superintendent now?" And I was like, I don't really feel like I have a choice, but sure. I'll start doing that. So my last semester of college, I just worked full time as a superintendent, who didn't know what they were doing, had no idea what was going on. I was just out there doing my best, and I finished that. It was kind of like at completion, so got it to substantial through punch list final, and then we had a big exterior phase where we put a traffic light in. And I don't know how we got stuck with that, but I did that, got into the office, and essentially the owner was like, "Hey, I know you want to go the PM route. Let's try it." So he was like, "You're an assistant project manager now." I was like, "Okay, sounds good." And within 3 months, they got an out of town job about 30 minutes from my hometown. So they were like, "Guess who's a PM now?" So I would start going up to these to this job and doing the PM stuff, still not really knowing what I was doing, but I was fortunate enough to have superintendent guidance along the way and executive guidance from there. And essentially, after I finished that, I did APM work for big jobs and PM work for small jobs up until I got a couple, real, you know, 20, $25 million jobs, moved back up to Northern Virginia. And ever since then, that's just kind of where I've been at, is that 20 to $50 million range, and just figuring it out every day.
It's awesome.
Yeah, that's the story. I hope it was okay.
No, that's perfect. That's great.
How long has the whole process taken you from graduation to where you're at today?
I'm gonna give an overlap answer because I started at
Sure.
I would have started at 20. I'm 30 now. So I'm probably right on the threshold of a decade, like probably about a month away from a decade. Because I remember, I think my senior year, I don't know, but I vividly remember turning 21 and being employed at that company. So I know that I started when I was 20. So about a decade at this point.
And you've worked with the one company your entire career so far?
So I worked there for 8 years. That's out of Virginia Beach. And then I moved back up outside of Washington, where I was originally, born and raised and went to college. And so I switched companies to a very, very similar size. That essentially the first company I worked for schools were their thing. That was like their market for 25 years, Virginia Beach all the way down to the point of Hatteras. And then I moved to another school builder. That's what I'm doing now. And they've had an active contract on a school in one county specifically for 35 years in a row. So
Wow.
they have always had a school for in that specific county for 35 years. And so we're going back and I'm renovating a school that the owner had renovated when he was just a little older than me. And
Unreal.
he's now in his late 60s. And so we're going back, redoing the work that was originally done. It's been 25 years or so, maybe 30. Anyways, it's cool to go and be part of a company that's been around for that long, and the owner is still there, and like he's coming to the meetings, and we're
That's
like going in there. He's like, "Oh yeah, like I do remember this edition." It's cool. It's a good time.
That is cool. Can you explain, like in a summary, what a summer wonder is? I've kind of touched on it and explained it to Nick, but I'd like your input on what a summer wonder is.
So I've never heard the term, but I definitely know what you're referring to.
That's interesting.
Um,
What do you guys call them?
summer.
Summer.
So I've had a few summer projects. I've had a few. I did a full 16 bathrooms in a middle school over the summer. That was tough. Then I've done a couple security vestibules over the summer, but the big one that people get hung up on, which is what the company that I'm doing now, we mostly do like 2-3 year renovations, like phased renovations of occupied schools. So they're very tricky. You got an occupied school, you've got to renovate the kitchen over the summer. There's no negotiating your way out of that. And so kitchens are usually the big summer push. And I think we're doing two this summer. We're doing two this summer. And it effectively, your summer wonder is you get kids, let's just say kids get out on June. We'll use the dates today. Today's June 16th. Let's say kids get out 15th, 14th, 13th. Kids get out Friday the 12th. That means that you get that weekend to start doing demo, and you need to start doing demo. But you can't go too far because you're going to have teachers in there on Monday and Tuesday packing up. So you can push the limits, but you can only go so far. Teachers get out of the way. Now you are 100% in that school. And so you've got to figure out in roughly 60 days how to do your demo, do your underground rough-ins, reframe, new plumbing, new electrical, then actually start the finishes process. You got to pour this concrete back. If you're doing a kitchen, which is the example I'm using, you got quarry tile, recessed slabs, likely new door frames and doors, all new kitchen equipment, which is probably $400,000 or $500,000, all the electrical, all the mechanical, roof penetrations, the whole nine, all just to get the equipment in the space to get it turned on and balance the hood and get all these things working. And your 60 days are going to be occupied by 10 to 15 where you're just redoing underground work or fixing things. And so your timelines get compressed drastically. So the summer wonders can be hard. And I'm using a kitchen as an example, but the thing is you find problems. A lot of there are people on social media and maybe people who are listening to this who have talked to their boss or, we're gonna send a delay claim, or we're gonna have to document this. Like the thing about schools is you can do that, but it doesn't change the fact that kids are coming to school. Unless you want to be on the news with the school superintendent explaining why you're busing kids to other schools, you have to find solutions. And a lot of times, a lot of GCs, that they haven't really been in that situation, they struggle. Cody, it sounds like you did some schools. You've probably been there a few times, and they can be really tough.
They
They
can
can
be.
be really tough.
A lot of my schedules were built out on like long lead procurement items, typically like mechanical or RTUs. So you knew you had to have everything built out and almost stubbed up to a point, knowing that that was your make or break thing that was going to be there a week before you had to turn it over. So.
Yes.
And that's just one
Absolutely.
example out of many.
It is, and like I said, phased occupied schools, we rarely will tackle a kitchen in the first summer of a contract. It rarely makes sense because of all the coordination and submittals and material procurement. When you give yourself a year plus to get all those materials, shop drawings, R5, you get all those things completed, then you can do a summer renovation like that and get an amazing amount of work done when you know all your materials are 20 to 30 miles away, in stock, build for, you've got your COI. First day of summer, everything starts showing up, after demo and you're ready to go. But they're very, it's a very niche. The school summer projects are a niche that I think are underappreciated for the level of difficulty that they cause people.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I agree.
But they can be rewarding, you
Yeah,
know? You
they
build
definitely
some
are.
good teams in the process.
You do. You learn a lot about your team and your company when you're doing this.
Yeah.
What would you say your top 3 challenges are on a day-to-day basis? What do you struggle with the most, or what causes the most amount of stress?
Can I say not having enough caffeine readily available? Is that a
That's a good
is that
answer.
fair?
Yeah, of course.
That's a good answer.
It's a tough question because I know, problems never end in the construction world.
Yeah.
So yeah, not specific things, just industry wise, what's the toughest part coming from your point of view?
Yeah, I think it changes. I'm really, really fortunate right now to be at a very established company in a very established market where a lot of our contractors know who we are, they know our expectations, we understand theirs. And so there are times where, you as a general contractor, I will have subcontractor issues, but I've been really fortunate recently to have like the A team. Um, so I can't go that route. I really am thankful for that. And some people, which you might assume based off of some of my videos and skits that I make, that I might say designs, right? But I really wouldn't, because for the most part, designs are fine. They're good. You find things on any job, no matter how good the design is. It's about the response, and I think that is kind of the answer. Is the I see a lot of cultivating that team, not just between the GC and their internal, but if you can cultivate a team around your subcontractors, the GC, the design team, the owner, and get everyone on the same sheet of music, the projects can be fun and enjoyable. But if one of those cogs goes down, whether it's a sub, the GC, architect, an engineer, or the owner, if one of those cogs is missing and not pulling their weight, you really start to end up into a problem very quickly. I wouldn't say that's that the biggest. I'm trying to like I wish I could come up with an answer exactly if I could pinpoint the biggest problem, but I would say it's more of like a gathering of individual issues that you see on a regular basis from, I get the standard material price escalations. We love to see those. Um, you can't price asphalt more than a month away because of the asphalt index. No one will sign a contract. Um, those are two good ones. You know, the general thing is I don't think I really see a whole lot of if I could pinpoint it on one thing. But I'm curious what you guys think. I mean, do you guys have something in mind when you ask that question that you're seeing?
No, I mean, I would agree with everything you said. I mean, that's it at the end of the job and even halfway through the jobs, we have big 24, 30-month projects in our world, but there's always these moments where you get through a problem or you hit a snag, and you kind of it reminds you of the same thing. There are so many individuals working to get the same, to meet the same goal, right? Whether it's vendors, suppliers, designers, owners making decisions, subcontractors executing the plan. So yeah, I would say that's a great answer. Bringing a team together is tough, and like you said, it's not just your company. It's all these different companies that need to work together hand in hand to accomplish the goal. Huge challenge. Doesn't necessarily fall on one individual to make that happen. It's really, yeah, who can pull their weight, and unfortunately you have to have tough conversations sometimes
Yeah,
to
that's a
make sure.
part of being that team is you have to hold one another accountable, and you have to be able to admit when you were wrong, which, myself included, everybody struggles with that, especially when you thought you were right, you know? But there, I had worked with a guy when I was in Virginia Beach. He was a vice president, smart guy, very, very good at what we're doing. And one of the smartest things, I hope he listens to this and be like, is that the only smart thing I taught you? He would say that you're not in the business of construction, Joey. Like, get that out of your head. You're in the business of managing people and personalities. And if it took me like 3 years to really absorb that and agree, I was like, dude, no, you know what you're talking about. Like, I'm in the business of making sure the rebar's here and the shop drawings are done. And like, that's why I'm here. Pay apps in on time. And then kind of it unraveled. And I was like, wait, he's right. And then I was like, oh my gosh, like he really is right. And that really is, I think that that's the real cornerstone of the industry, because what Nick was saying is you have so many people
Mhm.
that bring a project to fruition. I mean, if you wanted to go down the RTU path, you could go real far. Mechanical engineer, your mechanical installer slash supplier, that manufacturer, they probably have a couple dozen manufacturers of parts and pieces from all over the country or the world that have multiple other, the supply chain can go, a million places all the way down to where does the metal come from. So by the time an RTU, which is, I would argue, probably the most complicated piece, like singular piece on a building, someone might be able to argue that. I'm thinking maybe a big generator. Anyways, it's a complicated thing with a lot of parts and pieces. There's a lot of things that go into play for something like that.
Yeah, and something that we've talked about in the past as well, that we haven't talked about in a while, so it's worth bringing up again. We had a plumber on about, I don't know, what, 8 months ago,
A while ago.
6, 8 months ago, and he said that he had an uncle or something that was so proud of what he did, and he told him, you're building America. You are build. That's what he said. You're building America, and he kind of pushed back. He's like, "Whoa, I'm just a plumber. What are you talking about?" But if you really step back and think about it, a building isn't a building without the plumbing. It's not a complete product without every single piece that goes in. So everyone on site, every one of those suppliers, every one of those designers is playing an important role, because the building,
Yeah.
it's not a complete product without any piece of it.
Yeah. There's no one who builds the whole piece. You guys work for a GC. You're a superintendent. You're the closest thing to a person who's building the whole thing. And when was the last time you put a tool belt on, right? I mean, if the fallacy of someone building an entire structure as one entity that doesn't happen. You might find a couple home builders in the country that will turnkey the entire home, but they're probably still subbing out the site work or the asphalt. Like, no one company is turnkey doing it all. So
Mhm.
I agree. And I get these two comments. Well, one comment frequently when I talk about plumbing is that plumbing saves more lives than doctors. And clean water is pretty important, last I checked. And that might be a fair argument to make. I don't know. I'm not gonna
Oh,
do the study, but it
yeah, for
has
sure.
some merit.
Yeah.
Clean water, waste. Where does your waste go? And gas. I mean, for heating and if you have a gas line that's not installed correctly,
You got a
that's
problem.
yeah, that could be an issue. Yeah, plumbers
Yeah.
are incredibly important, and their systems are complicated, and it's actually fascinating when you really dig in to any one of the trades. It's such a deep rabbit hole, any trade that you go down. So that's one of the
Yes.
main intents of this podcast is to promote it. I don't think that there's a lot of exposure to younger kids, about to graduate high school, that this is a viable option, and it's a lot of fun. It's very engaging. I'm sure that you learn something new every single day, just like the rest of us.
Uh, I do, and I get, I'm proved wrong regularly. I prove people wrong regularly. Like, if you work together, you're gonna learn something new every day and teach someone else something new every day, and maybe you're both wrong and you learn something together. Like, you will never I had a conversation on Monday morning. I wouldn't say it was an argument, but it was a heated discussion about some footings, and I told my concrete guy, I said, "No, dude, you're wrong. Like, I know what it says." And I was wrong. And we went back to the trailer and he showed it, he proved it to me, and I was like, "Oh shit, we got a problem, guys." So, you know, there's so many little things that you can pick up on a day-to-day basis. But I'm gonna go back to your specific comment about promoting trades, which obviously, like, if you're listening to this podcast, you're interested in this subject in some way, shape, or form. And maybe it's because you are interested in getting in the trades. Well, I just pulled up the prevailing wage. I'm using a rough number. Prevailing wage in Virginia for an electrician is about $55 an hour. Now, just to be clear to anyone listening, prevailing wage does not necessarily mean that you will get paid that as an electrician in Virginia. It means that if you are on a project that is funded with state money, you will get prevailing wage. So, if you're just doing a private job somewhere in the middle of nowhere, prevailing wage might not apply. But on many local government projects, you will get prevailing wage. $55 an hour. That's without fringes and benefits and burden, all that stuff. So your paycheck is $55 an hour plus a little bit, which is $2,200 a week. That times 52 weeks is $114,000. That is after, and that's not an arguable number. That is what you will be paid. If you are not paid, your company is breaking the law if they are not paying you that or more. So if you're 18 years old listening to this and you're an electrician I'm using Virginia, want to be an electrician in Virginia, after you get your journeyman's license, $114,000 without overtime, and that's not your added health care, paid time off, retirement. That doesn't even touch those things. That's a shit ton of money. That's a lot of money, and you would be effectively close to double the average household income, which is what, $68,000 in the United States. So you're there. What's that divided by two? You're
Minus
over. Yeah,
minus
57,000.
minus college debt. And
Yes,
most of the time, these companies will pay for your schooling to get that journeyman's license.
100%. And you have better job security than, I don't know, probably 90% of the other people in the world. I'm sure there's exceptions. I can't think of any, but you're pretty high up on the list.
Yeah, you're 100% right.
Yeah, I mean, that's just prevailing wage in Virginia. If you go up and pick some of these other big cities where the cost of living is significantly higher and unions are much more prevalent, you can double that. And we've got geothermal well guys that are doing some work for us right now, and they're going to go up to Connecticut on their next project, and they're going to make $100 an hour. And it's tough work. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, it's hard work. I don't want to do it. But these guys are 19, 20 years old, and they're making $70 an hour. Like, that's insane.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever envy the guys out in the field? I know Cody and I have talked about this. Not as if, I want to go do that for my career. I'm happy where I'm at, but some days it's like, man, the mental strain versus I just want to go work. I just want to go physically work and not be put under the dark cloud of the mental strain.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's points in my career definitely where I'm like, where I have thought to myself, yeah, it would be nice to not carry the pressure. But then I think about, and this is a conditioning thing. I'm conditioned now, like as you guys are, the whole picture.
Mm.
And so I could never change now. But there were definitely points in my career where I was like, you know, I could take an excavator and I could go dig some holes for somebody for right now. Like that would be so just listen to a podcast and just, it's hard work. You got to get out, you got to dig, you're hot as shit. Like, yeah, I'm not saying that's easy. I'm just saying that the challenge is different. And there are days where I would have preferred that challenge, but now I'm addicted to knowing exactly where the pay app is, what the over under billings are, whose RFI is at the top of the list, how long submittals have been in queue for. Like, I want to know, I have to know that stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
I do have a few subcontractors that like to poke. They like to poke because they want to know, but I don't share all the information with them. Of course, you share the parts that are important when necessary. You don't overshare because then people's minds start going a different direction. So I would say that earlier in my career, yes, not so much anymore.
It's a great answer. I'm curious, what's your favorite scope of work to buy out?
That's an interesting conversation. Have you guys had another GC project manager on?
Have we? We've had people that worked for him in the past. I don't think an active GC member. No.
Well, can I do a little educational bit here?
Of course.
So buyout, as you guys know, is the process of you have a contract to build something, but now you have to award said individual contracts per the different scope items to subcontractors. I'm in a weird spot where the majority of my career, I have been heavily involved in the buyout and scope writing process. At my previous company, I would usually be handed the subcontractor with a rough scope that I would critique. Now I'm much more involved in the actual estimating, and I can kind of take a binder and work through buyout as I see fit. My favorite scope of work to write is simple. This is easy. Is when I have a repeat electrician that will say, I'll take electrical complete, just write division 26. Done. That's my favorite, is if I can write division 26 and any exterior, boom, complete scopes. I post about it all the time. Yes, that can get tricky because sometimes the electrician will carry fire alarm conduit. Okay. Maybe the electrician carries fire alarm complete. That happens. Maybe the electrician does carry raceways for access controls. So there are some nuances still, even to that broad statement. But I really did. I was not the PM. I was like the assistant project manager. But we genuinely wrote a subcontract to a plumbing and mechanical company that said those two divisions complete, 2 lines. And you know how that job went? Flawlessly. They crushed it. And
Hmm.
so my favorite to write is when I genuinely receive completed scopes. Like I don't want to have to add alternate a million different things to come up with your number 45 minutes before a bid is due, you know? Like
Yeah.
take the structural steel package, all of it. Take concrete, interior complete, ad litem, exterior complete. Let's keep this simple. I'm oversimplifying because of course you've got some really weird coordination when it comes to just joint sealants or who penetrates the building for plumbing connections. Like I don't want to oversimplify this, But
Yeah,
it
that's
really
cool.
does drive me nuts when you don't get a true complete scope.
Yeah, it just leaves a little bit of room for some gray area, open to interpretation, I'm sure, here and there. But yeah, if a sub has the balls to, take on the complete division, I'm sure they have all that covered.
Yeah. How do you guys typically see it? You get fortunate enough to find contractors like that?
I've never seen that. Nope.
You know who runs those companies? Old guys. The
Yeah.
every single one that does that is older guys who have been doing it for 35 years. And they don't care. They're like, I'm doing the electrical package. Here's the number.
Do you
And
think
those guys are
does that
awesome.
change? Does that make their pricing less competitive?
Typically speaking, these are the same companies that rinse and repeat. Both of the firms I've worked for, they've been the rinse and repeat long-term relationships. So no, they're giving you good numbers. Or they're giving you a number that they don't give to anyone else because they don't want to work for the big guys who are going to hold their money for 6 months.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
What's one scope of work that you absolutely dislike reviewing and buying out?
Anything division 10 through 15. I can't stand it. It's like, those guys I'm speaking in generalities, they make it drastically more difficult to figure out who's doing what because they won't carry the whole thing. One guy's going to exclude something stupid like, yeah, we don't attach our stuff to the wall. What do you mean? We excluded that on our proposal. What do you mean? What are you doing then? Are you just delivering it? Like what is going on? And it sounds funny. Anyone who's a GC, PM, or superintendent, this is real. And I can't use specific examples, of course, and I'm not going to, but I've genuinely had to look at people and be like, then what are you providing to us for this number? Because you're not doing 70% of the expectation. You've excluded everything. At this point, I might as well just call Armstrong and get this thing delivered and I'll slap it in myself. I'm going down a rant. The division 10 through 15 can get really, really tricky really fast. You got like the weird stuff like skylights or those domes that go all the way through the roof and they're supposed to project light underneath. Like the amount of cross coordination on some of that stuff, like, okay, who's got the roof frame? How big is the roof frame? Who's setting the roof frame? Who welds the roof frame? And the skylight guys aren't going to do any of it. And they're also not going to send you the details in a timely fashion. So everyone's left scrambling. Then they show up and they'll butcher the install anyway. So I've actually never done a skylight like that. So no one can get upset. But that's the kind of weird nuance stuff that really makes it challenging and so quickly ruins the on-site mentality because everyone's out there busting their ass and someone in division 10 through 14 comes out and does a shitty job and you're like, what the heck, man? Like why?
Yeah.
We're all working hard here and you come out here and you just left trash everywhere and then you leave. That's really frustrating.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
you hit home there.
you guys deal with a lot of that division, those weird specialty divisions.
Yeah, there's a decent amount. I can't say that I've ever done skylights.
I've done a few.
Yeah, what's the tube thing that you were talking about? Like a solar tube? Is that
Solar
what it's called?
tubes.
Yeah,
Yep, that's exactly what it
I
is.
think I've done one of those. But yeah,
Yeah.
it gets tricky. It's complicated.
Yeah,
It's
challenge.
scope as a superintendent, it's scope gaps, and our company does a good job of giving us a chance to review scopes before they go out
Good.
for signature. But it's inevitable. You're gonna have scope gaps. No one can be
Yeah.
perfect. Can't catch everything, but it's complicated, and when you're trying to run down the highway at full speed, trying to get stuff done, it puts the brakes on pretty quick.
It does. And it's a good practice to have superintendents review scopes. That's a really good practice because you know who's going to end up having to pick up and figure them out is your superintendents. Usually they're the first ones who are going to be like, hey, we got a bit of an issue here.
Mhm.
So that's a really good practice. And I bet that is a huge value add for your company to let you guys take your time and read through them.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's a big help.
Okay.
And then we get some input, and when we get down to the issue, then we can't just point at the person writing the contract and say, "What the hell, man?" No, we had a chance. We had a
Mhm.
chance to pick that up too.
Everyone's in it together now.
Yep.
It takes a
Can't
village.
just Yeah, you can't blame the estimator anymore.
Yep.
You still
Um,
can, you
yeah.
know, if you want to.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, there's some of that.
100%. I mean, how are you gonna go to the Christmas party at the end of the year and not make fun at someone for something like that?
Oh, yeah.
Especially if it's something small. I mean, it's what makes it fun.
Right. Well, let's dive into your YouTube channel a little bit. I don't think I've watched everything on there, but I've seen some pretty funny videos. Uh, Obviously, it's satirical, but very relatable. If if I
Yeah.
do say, yeah,
Did you guys stumble upon it on YouTube? I'm really curious. Or if
Instagram.
you
or
and
Instagram.
Yeah.
okay, because I do post YouTube shorts and they get 0 views.
Really?
I mean, I mean 0. I'll get like I'll get like roughly 3 million views on Instagram a month, and I'll get like 6,000 on YouTube Shorts posting the same content. It's wild. Um,
Social
so
media thing is interesting. Just
it
what
is,
platform blows up or which platform puts you into the algorithm. It's interesting.
it is. Facebook actually has started getting traction for me. Instagram makes it very easy to post directly to Facebook, so
Mhm.
that's been interesting. But I know that's not really the question you were asking. So I'll tell you the story. I was at I started posting just to post, and I was doing a side job at my friend's parents' river house. I was helping them get a renovation completed, and I was sitting down at the kitchen table. No one was around, and I was like, "Hey, I should make a skit. I see people online making skits of things. I'm gonna do that." And so I made my first skit, and it was essentially like it was a mock OAC meeting where they're like, "Okay, tell us a 2-week look ahead." Guy tells a 2-week look ahead, and then the architect's like, "You're behind schedule." And the PM's like, "Well, I need these submittals and these R5s and these change orders, so I can't proceed." And then the architect's just like, "No, LDs, liquidated damages." And the owner's like, "Liquidated damages, meeting adjourned." And it got like 150,000 views on TikTok, like, within 2 days. And I had never had more than maybe, like, 4,000 views before that, and I was like,
Wow.
"Oh, this is interesting." And so then I just made a point to originally, I made a lot of skits about my personal experiences without naming people and used a lot of that for inspiration, and then now I get a lot of DMs, people saying, "Oh, hey, I just had an issue with my sprinkler guy. He won't move his pipe. You should make a skit about it." And so then now I know enough and been in these things that reminds me of situations that I've lived and also using some inspiration from DMs and comments to kind of make up different scenarios and embellishing kind of my experiences more. Little bits and pieces are factual, but not 100%. But it's so relatable because everyone in this industry is looking at these videos and like, I sat through the amount of comments that say, "I sat through this meeting today," like verbatim. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, these happen. Like this is real life for a lot of people. So people can relate to it pretty well, I think.
It's extremely relatable. Every conversation, every meeting, everything is relatable. You are literally saying what everybody thinks about, lives
Yeah.
just within your videos. It's
Yeah,
awesome.
and architects and engineers, I do poke fun back at GCs, which is more difficult for me because I would like to think I'm good at my job, and
Mhm.
I've never worked for another GC, like, as a subcontractor or an engineer, so I kind of have to take the things that people complain about in the comments and turn them into videos. So I do try to spread the love of making fun of GCs, subcontractors, engineers, and architects so everyone gets made fun of. But it's interesting how many architects and engineers reach out to me through direct messages and like, this is hilarious. I know that architect. I know exactly what you mean with the snarky kind of passive aggressive comments. And a lot of them think it's funny too. And so it's good that people take it 99% positive. It's obviously a joke, but you can also read in between the lines and learn a few things from it at the same
Mhm.
time.
Yeah, I like when you knock some of the trades, specifically your elevator video. That was pretty freaking funny.
I've made 2. I thought the first one was really funny, but the second one, I made it as though they were checking into a hotel
Mhm.
and, do you need lemonade at your workstation? Do you need your tools shine? And, I genuinely had a hard time making that because I was laughing. And, like, I was like, this is so funny."
So over
Um,
the top.
and it really was. It was just so over the top, and anyone who's dealt with these elevator guys, like, yeah, they can be like that, but it's usually their office. Usually the elevator guys in the field doing the work, you put the little barricade up for them, and then they disappear and they do their thing. I really have never had any on-site issues with an
I would
elevator
I would
contractor.
I would agree with that.
It's the 8 months leading up to when they show up that's like,
Yep.
can we do stairs? Like, please, can we please do stairs?
Yeah,
Anyway, so that's
my boss actually sent me that video. What was that 2-3 months ago? That was the first one I saw, and I probably watched it 2 or 3 times, and then I read all the comments,
it's so
which was just a fight. It was just a battle in the comments. I'm like, oh
yeah.
my god, you got the elevator guys chiming in like, take the stairs if you don't want an elevator.
It's true. And then some of the elevator guys are just like, this is spot on.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
notes.
Exactly.
And yeah, you do. I try not, like, I deliberately will comment for maybe the first 2 hours a post is live, so long as they're positive. But as soon as I start seeing it slipping, I'm done. I really just try to ignore them because I don't want to read the negative because then
Yeah.
I feel, I don't, and I can't do that. So I will respond. I really, my new niche is to make this elite project manager satire where it's like I had a drill the other day and I tightened a fence as if that's a challenging thing. But the satirical value is that it's a project manager with a tool. Whoa, this guy must be really good at his job. And people have made comments back that are hilarious. Like, people are crushing it in the comments. It's so funny. And so I've really enjoyed when I do make videos like that and people take it a step, not further in the wrong way, but they kind of build off of it in the comments. It's so funny sometimes.
It's awesome. Yeah. I did just watch that one. When did you post it? I want to say a couple days ago I saw it. Your tool one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's awesome.
Yeah, who makes some really great comments is Matt Graves, the construction Yeti guy.
Mhm.
His comments on my post, but other people's posts are like almost always just like 10 out of 10 hilarious. So I did an Instagram story today. We were pouring footing, so the guys were in there with a vibrator, and I commented, construction Yeti's favorite tool. And so now obviously like he's gonna have to get me back on something. But that's what this is supposed to be.
You
This
want
is funny.
okay.
It's
You want
supposed to
you're
be
breaking
funny,
up a little bit.
and
Can
at
we
the same time, so going to
you're breaking up just a little bit.
All right, it's fine.
We're good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kinda catching, like, every other word.
Yeah, I hear you. How do I sound
Can you-
now?
Yeah, you're good. You're
Yep.
good now.
So, can you start at the
Construction.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah, which part of the story?
It just you
Whole
commented
beginning?
the vibrator. You said construction Yeti's favorite
Okay.
tool.
Yeah. Yeah, so I did an Instagram story construction, Eddie's favorite tool. We were pouring concrete, and the guys had a vibrator in there. Obviously, he has to get me back now on a post. And the whole idea, which will probably be making fun of project managers and how they're useless. It's funny. My videos are funny. His content is funny. It pokes fun at the flaws of the industry, but someone who's in their 18 to 24 era who is still gathering a lot of this information can consume this content, get a laugh, and get an education. And if they do have more questions, like they can bring that to whoever they're reporting to and get their take and learn. And that's kind of really the backbone of the whole thing, which is really a good segue into you guys. And I'd like to know, what's your favorite part about doing this podcast? Where do you want it to go? And, you know, what are some of the feedback that you guys have gotten? Because I'd imagine people who are listening are getting a lot out of this.
Yeah. We I don't even know. It's hard to remember like why we started the podcast. It just came from a conversation like, do people even know what we do? Like do people that are not in construction really understand what all goes into this, or do they just look at us like the guys in the way on the highway? You know. So that was kind of the start of it. We've had a great array of different tradesmen and supporting roles in the construction industry. And it's funny because everyone we bring in, especially if they're guys out in the field with their bags on every day, we're like, you want to be on a podcast? And they're like, what's that? But by the end of it, they're like, this is the coolest thing ever. None of these guys get a chance to really dive deep into their profession. One thing Cody has said before is, you get home after a hard day and everyone's, asking you, how was your day? And you kind of just default to, it was fine. And then you get to your personal life. So to be able to talk about your day to day, especially the struggles and the high points, and also hear other people's that you can relate to, I think just goes a long way with both our guests and our listeners.
That's a good example of what there's a guy on there on Instagram and TikTok, the human side of construction. What you guys are building here proves that construction workers are not these tattooed felons that don't give a shit about anyone. They treat people like shit. Like, that's not this world at all. Like, okay, yeah, sure, there's some people with tattoos that look mean, but
Mhm.
they're not. And you're 100% right. I can't go somewhere and explain to someone, you know, why my footing detail today was really challenging to work through. They'd be
Mhm.
like, "What's a footing?" Then I have to explain how concrete works, It's like then I'm sure you two, like, you guys are personal friends outside of work. Are you both married, girlfriends, or anything like that?
Both married with kids.
So let's pretend that you're at a kid's soccer game and you see each other, right? And like you now have someone that you can talk to about construction because you actually think it's cool.
Mhm.
Like a lot of people don't have that. And I think that what you guys are doing here is really showing that human side
Mhm.
to what looks like some crazy mess inside of a fence.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
really segmented from the world.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of podcasts out there about the technical side of the construction industry or each trade even, and we really wanted to get to that human side, like you're saying, is our main goal. These are all people out here, and you see people losing their cool on site sometimes, and it's easy to forget when you're under a lot of pressure and you have these deadlines and these crazy budgets to hit, that these are all just people out here at the end of the day. And when you really pull them aside and you have a long format conversation with them, you quickly remember these are all just people with their personal lives. They have families. They're just trying to earn a wage and earn a living, And then you also realize how incredibly smart all these guys are. The
Yes.
knowledge well just goes so deep. And that's another really cool thing about working for a general contractor is we have endless resources on site.
Mhm.
We can figure just about anything out with all the experience combined with all the
Yeah,
trades on site, the design team, our own team, our upper management.
absolutely.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
it's just incredible to me that all of this knowledge is there, and you only really talk to someone about it when you need it,
Yeah.
Mhm.
instead of pulling them aside and really learning about who they are and why they do this and how they got there and how long they've been doing it, what they wanna do in the future. It's very interesting. Um, and
It
one other
is.
thing I wanted to say is, you know, we're diving into this human side, of the construction industry, and I hope it builds the same thing that your channel and your videos build, because your videos are just building this camaraderie within the industry. You know, when my boss is sending me Instagram videos that
Mm.
he thinks is hilarious, it brings everyone together and we can all have a laugh. We can be like, yeah, seriously though, we got to figure out
Yeah,
the elevator
th
stuff.
that's really nice of you to say because 'cause I've actually never thought about it that way, so that's cool, thank you.
Yep.
Um, and I really genuinely hope that people who are watching the videos are willing to send it to their boss even when it's making fun of them,
Hmm.
Mhm.
because that's really how like, look, I'm not some construction Gandhi, I'm not gonna save the construction industry, right? But I feel like people of our generation have grown up over the last 10, 15 years in construction, and we have recognized some flaws. And I'm seeing a number of people, in the 25 to 40 range that are on social media now. Maybe, I'm making an exaggeration, but there are people who want this industry to change, and they want it to change for the better, not only for safety and efficiency and happiness, but to reduce that stress and this crazy, these unrealistic expectations. And maybe it's just that construction took a little while to start the social media stuff, but I'm seeing more and more of it, and it's neat to see. And I hope that, you know, you guys and some of the people that I mentioned previously, maybe I have some positive impact on it. Is, maybe 5, 10 years from now, like maybe there really is a different feeling to this industry. You don't know. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's changed a lot. Even in my um 10, 12 years I've been doing it. And then you hear stories from some of the
You're frozen.
I
um
know I know where he was going with that though.
I'll keep talking. My device ran into a problem and needs to restart. Uh-oh.
No, delete it. Say restart later. Get out of here.
My computer might have just broke.
This is construction superintendents in a nutshell. Can't use a goddamn computer. This is so perfect.
Just break
Just
it.
take the battery out and put it back in. It'll be fine.
This-
Did you try to unplug it and plug it back in?
Um,
I was just gonna
this
go ahead.
well, let me before the thought leaves my head. Yeah,
Yeah.
you hear from old timers about how it used to be, and there was all these.
Yeah.
The lead superintendent was always, you didn't want to get chewed out by him because he was a scary
Mhm.
guy and always yelling. Um, that's just not the way it is.
No,
You
it's
know, there's
changed drastically since then.
there's a extremely high level of professionalism. Um, uh, you run into, you know, some of the smartest people I've ever talked to in this, probably the smartest people I've ever talked to have been on the job at some point in my career. And just the sophistication of not only the GC, the architects, the design team, but a lot of the subcontractors are extremely sophisticated with complex systems for generating shop drawings, and figuring out problems and, installing the actual work.
Mhm.
It's it's really it's not as simple as the average person thinks when they're looking into
No.
that construction fence like you were
Yeah, you
saying
start
earlier.
getting into BMS controls and set points, and you're like, "Dude, I'm done." Like, I don't understand what you're talking about. Like, I just need air conditioning, please, you know? You're
Yeah.
you're s completely right, is buildings are getting more complicated, designs are getting more complicated. LEED, over the last 20 years has become bigger and bigger, which influences more complexity. ENS and stormwater controls, more complex. Energy management, more complex. There's so many facets to what you're talking about that do require people to really, really understand what they're doing. If you want to be confused, go talk to a real plumber who's been doing work for a long time or an HVAC tech. Yeah, I don't know how a chiller truly works, but these guys do, and it's complicated. I can tell you that for a fact.
And they can ooh, and I'm derailing right now. No. And they can uncomplicate it pretty easily if you just talk to them, you know,
Yeah.
which is also impressive that they can take something that you don't understand at all and they can simplify it and put it into terms that you can kind of
Yes.
get it enough to do your job.
My
Um,
favorite my favorite saying is, "Explain it to me like I'm a 5th grader." I really do say this to subcontractors a lot, and it takes me off that PM pedestal. "Oh, this is a GC PM," like, "Oh, like that matters." But it takes me off this pedestal, and ideally, I'm taking that idea of I'm this person who's supposed to be in charge, and I know everything, and I'm in charge, like, forget all that. I don't understand what you're saying. Teach me something, and then people really start to change how they react to situations like that.
mhm.
Feel free to use that term. I've had good luck with it.
Yeah, people love to talk about what they do because they spend so much time doing it. Each person out there that's doing something that has a sense of like, I don't know, you have to have pride to be in this industry. Any sense of success is what I was going to say. But
You have
yeah,
to care. There's
you
no
do
doubt.
have to
This
care.
is not an industry that you will succeed in if you do not care.
Yeah, 100%.
You can go through a lot of industries, I think, and just do the bare minimum. Like, I don't think construction is the one that you will get rewarded and promoted for doing the minimum. I
No,
really don't.
yeah, I agree with you.
There's just too much on the line in this industry, and there's a lot of trust placed in everyone. Um, it's a lot of money on the line. There's deadlines that are high risk. Schools, kids need to go back to school. There's a lot of risk there, and then you also have people's lives on the line when they're,
Yeah.
when they're on site. They're it's not like there's no danger ever. There's always a little bit of danger, whether you're using a drill or you're walking steel 4 stories up in the air. There's always some risk out in the field too. So yeah, if anyone's not really taking it seriously, it definitely shows itself pretty quickly.
Yeah, people definitely forget that it is dangerous. Like, uh, you know, a crane plan is only as good until a hydraulic line busts. Next thing you know, you got a crane tipping, right? Like, that is the kind of thing that happens, and even with all the preparation in place, I think OSHA says that 90% of accidents are preventable. Well, what about the 10%?
Hmm.
Like, things happen, and I remember a year or 2 ago, there was I think it was a young man in Virginia who got backed over by a concrete truck or something. Like, he was a young kid.
Hmm.
Like, when was the last time you walked on a job site and you thought, "Oh, yeah, there's a concrete truck. I'm in real danger." But, like, you are. Like, you really need to be mindful of these things and be making that eye contact as you take these everyone takes these things for granted. I'm just as guilty as the next guy, but skid steer is gonna win if it backs into you, you know? It's bigger than you.
Right. Yeah, it's a good reminder, and we've got some interns on site for the summer, and I try to at least hammer that home every time I talk. We're walking around the site, you're stopping for all equipment until he waves you by. Um,
Yes.
no ducking under red tape. Um,
Mm,
just always aware of your surroundings when you're on a job site. But yeah,
absolutely.
I also urge any younger person, uh, anyone that's just kind of coming in, whether you're working for the GC or you're working for a specific trade, just talk to people. 100% of the people that we've had on this podcast have been super friendly, willing to open up, talk about their day to day, give us advice when we ask, you know, specific things. I would say 99.9% of people on the job site will typically make time for you if you ask them a question.
100%. Absolutely agree.
Yeah,
Absolutely agree.
yeah. I was thinking about when you asked about the podcast and how we started, and Nick was explaining we were just having an off the cuff conversation, and the one thing that I wanted to share was out of every new entrant into the industry, whether it be any kind of blue collar, construction, manufacturing, out of every one entrant, there's 3 people retiring. So we have a gap of there's millions of jobs, millions of opportunities, and
Yeah.
that's
And,
a concern.
you know, I think what a lot of I've had this conversation a number of times is maybe you guys have a similar opinion is, 2008 happened, and I think that left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth about the industry. Quite frankly, a lot of people left and they
Mhm.
didn't come back. And so not only do you have the scenario that you've described, but you also have this short generation of people who were in it 2008, lost their job and never went back. And that gap is getting really close to the executive level, which means that there's a real opportunity for people who are 30 to 40 years old who are growing into companies where there's no one there to take the reins.
Mm.
Because in 2008, so many of them got out. And with the way the world is working, people want to be social media influencers now and jump on Lamborghinis and break the glass for attention. Meanwhile, you could go be an electrician in Boston and make $200,000 a year. Like, you know, that's not such a bad option.
Yeah, it's sustainable. It's not you're not living and you're not consumed by the 10-second generation. You're not getting instant gratification all the time. Whereas
Yeah,
to like construction is the closest thing to getting instant gratification. It's very hands-on.
yes, absolutely. I agree. I think what you guys are doing here is fantastic. And I think that anyone who listens is going to get a lot of benefit from this. I really do.
Appreciate that.
We
Yeah,
appreciate
of
that.
course. Awesome.
Um, well, we're kind of coming up on our time here. We do like to give our guests. Well, I got one question before we get into that.
Yeah.
If you were to go back 10 years, what's one piece of advice that you would give yourself?
Oh, I would go right back to what we just talked about. Go up to people and ask questions. If I could go back to my first 6 months as an intern, I really wish that I had spent some of that time and I had grabbed a vibrator from the concrete man and spent more time learning how to do concrete, grabbed a trowel, learned to finish, asked the electrician if I could bend a few conduits for him. It sounds silly, and if you go up and you be weird about it, people are gonna be like, "No, dude, stay away from me." But if you go up and you're like, "Hey, I don't really know what you're doing. Can you teach me? I wanna try." And I comment on one guy's, Instagram frequently, Slim Brick. He's like a mason guy out of somewhere in the Midwest. He's funny, does a lot of masonry content, and I comment constantly. I've done a couple times where I've been like, "Anyone watching this, laying block is not as easy as they are making this look. I have tried, and the mason took my tools away from me after 3 blocks." Like, try these things. You will have a new appreciation for how hard it is to bend 1-inch rigid conduit with a bender. like the old school manual ones,
Mhm.
or laying masonry, or finishing concrete, tying rebar. If you get the opportunity and a site guy is like, yeah, go dig a hole. Like, is it really as easy as they make it look? No. Like, God forbid someone gives you keys to a dozer. I did that. It's bad.
I've done
But
it.
these things are all much more difficult than they look. And if you can spend, while you're in the field and you're young and you don't have responsibilities, if you can spend a little bit of time just learning a few of these other bits and pieces of it, I think it better rounds you as a, especially if you go to be a GCPM. It really helps you to understand and defend your subcontractors when necessary.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's pretty easy to forget how difficult it is to accomplish a lot of this stuff out in the field. Almost all of it. So it's easy to dismiss, to put unrealistic expectations on subcontractors. And if you do get some of that experience, you'll be able to to
Yeah.
take that and hold on to it the rest of your life. You'll know when
Mhm.
when you see a block wall going up and it's why is this taking so long? You can go back and be like, oh, well, these guys are artists. They're not just masons.
And they're
Uh,
working on scaffolding 20 feet in the air. That's terrifying. Yeah. Spend some time on a scaffold with a mason. That's for the top of a gym wall. You're going to have a new perspective on, enjoying being on the ground.
mhm. Yeah, for sure. And then lastly, we do like to give our guests kind of just an opportunity to say whatever they want, whether it's thanking someone out on site, or giving a shout out to any mentors, anything like that.
Yeah. I did the Construction Mentors podcast, Ike, the other day. It was really good, and he asked me the same question, and I was like, I got nothing. I don't know. I should really write a book, which I haven't started a book, nor do I have an intention of starting a book. But, if you find my content interesting, comment, share it, be positive, and, go get after it. Go get some work done.
For those of you that don't have your social media, what's your call out?
Oh, yeah. So my TikTok is this is funny. My TikTok is Joey Does a Thing. My Instagram is _ Joey Brown __. And it's funny because Ike asked me the same question and I got back to the same place, which is Joey Does a Thing is I took that name from Jeremy Clarkson on Top Gear. I don't know if you guys ever watch Top Gear. You always say, I did a thing. It's funny. So I took it from there and I do like a car page called Joey Did a Thing, which is not anywhere like what my construction page is at. And I actually launched a podcast this week on on my automotive stuff that is sort of a passion project. So if you want to listen to What's the Miles podcast, go ahead. It's me and my best friend just shooting the shit. It's not educational whatsoever, but it is funny.
Heck yeah, well, I'll check
Beautiful.
it out.
Hell yeah, guys. Well, this has been great. I really am rooting for you guys. Call me again when you get to, I want to be at episode 27 and then 127, 227. I want the 27 spot, okay?
Hell yeah, we'll give it to you.
Sounds
Cool.
good. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks,
Thank you.
Joey.
Take it easy.